fortunately for me, I got a letter at the same time from the unit, Delta, and it said, you're eligible to apply to try out for Delta Force. I have to clarify that because guys will go, oh yeah, Delta Force wanted me. They sent me a letter, but I found a better job, whatever, cleaning shit or somewhere, whatever, right? So, I hear it all the time. It cracks me up. It's like, no, just because you got the letter doesn't mean they wanted you. The letter means you're eligible to apply to go through the application process to see if you qualify to try out, right? And so,
what do you have to do to be eligible?
So the criteria at that time, it's probably still the same, or very close, was you had to be a minimum of 22. You had to be at least a buck sergeant at E5. You had to have a GT score of a minimum of 110, which is like an Army IQ test. If you're 110 or above, you can do anything in the military. No judicial action against you or anything, no punishment in the past, no UCMJ stuff, so you've never been in trouble. What else was there? There's a couple other requirements, but... So if you met all the basics, then what would happen if they said, okay, we're going to give you a chance, then you come to another formal application process where you do a physical fitness test, you actually get a medical examination, pretty thorough one. They do a background check on you. There's quite a bit you do, psychological evaluations. And then once you complete all that, they take your packet and then they say, good luck, we'll let you know in 30 days if you make it or not, right? If you get it selected. So 30 days later, I got the letter, and it said, "Congratulations, you passed the application, and now you're going to attend the formal assessment selection course." Right? It's a big deal. To kind of give you perspective on why it's a big deal is they only run 2 selection courses a year. So twice a year. At that time, they panned all the records in the U.S. Army. Now they pan the records of all the military, everybody in the military, right? Because, believe it or not, the Army pool was too small to draw eligible candidates from, right? And actually, the military pool is still too small, okay? This is how hard it is to get in this program. So in my class, the class I went through in October, there's normally 100 guys, 100 candidates, right? They'll max out 100 guys. I had 110 in there. I don't know why. Maybe I was mistaken, but I'm pretty sure I counted 110 heads in there, right? So we had 10 extra. Of the 110 that started the program, at the end, 6 of us completed it. We're the only ones standing. Of the 6 of us that completed it, 3 of us actually got selected after we went in front of the commander's board in psychological evaluation again. So 3 out of 110 of us got picked up. That happens twice a year. So we had one class where 1 guy made it. Think about that for a minute. Think about that. That's how tough it is, right? The formal assessment selection course, it's not like, and people get mad when I say this stuff, especially the SEAL fans. Listen, I don't have a problem with SEALs. A lot of them are friends, I've trained and worked with them a lot downrange. I'm just stating facts. The fact is Delta Force selection is very unique in that you don't go through as a group. You go through as an individual. It's an individual effort, right? So, you see Buds and Ranger School and all these other ones. They're all running together and suffering together and screaming and crying together. Delta Force, you go through by yourself, literally. The only time you see anybody else is in the morning or in the evening, right? Outside of that, in fact, they don't even call you by your name. They just assign you a color and number. Right? So every day you're a different color number. And how do you know your color number? Because you have to go to a whiteboard and it's got all the information on there every day, right? It tells you where to be, when to be there. Don't be late, light, or out of uniform. And there's your name and your color number for the day. And that's what you'll be addressed as. So they do that for a reason. They don't socialize with you. I say they, the cadre. They don't socialize with you. So they're always stone-faced, no bullshitting, shucking and jiving. In the back, we can see them. They're very professional. They're almost like robots. But it's part of the script. It has to be that way. And what they're trying to do is they're putting pressure, they're making you put pressure on yourself, right? Because there's some guys out there that, they get a little nervous or uncomfortable and they look at somebody else to see how they're acting. Oh, they're looking kind of happy and giddy and smiling. Must be okay, right? So especially from the instructors.
Sure.
So the idea is you're basically isolated in this course with other people, but nobody's addressing you by your name. There's no personal interaction. You're told what to do. Very limited. It's very limited information. You're given a task, and then you're not told what the standard is. And we say, well, how much time do I have? Do the best you can. Do the best you can, but have a good one. But do the best you can. That's all you will get out of them.
Wow.
That's all you'll get out of them. It's like, hello, is anybody in there? Right? It's funny, right? But it's designed that way because, so what does do the best you can mean? It means do the best you can. So if you really want to be there, you're going to do the best you can, right? So you push yourself every day. Like literally every day you push yourself to the extreme. And eventually, guess what's going to happen? Your body's going to break down. And there's nothing worse than being alone in the woods or in a farm field and your body's broken down. And you're standing there demoralized. You can't push yourself nothing anymore. And you're like, what am I doing here? Why am I putting myself through this? You start questioning yourself. Right. And that's the whole point, right? And
solitude.
Yeah. And so what they're looking for is, they have a saying. There's a lot of guys that will, they're just throwing a towel. So that's it for me, right? So they call it Victor Whiskey or voluntary withdrawal, VW, right? And a candidate will go, Sergeant, I'd like the Victor Whiskey. And they'll go, okay, put your clothes, your coat on, your jacket, get dry, get in the truck. We'll take you back. They take you to the rear, put you in the shower, feed you. You're nice and warm and comfortable. Then they give you an out briefing with the commander. And what ends up usually happening is the commander goes, hey, man, thanks for coming out. Thanks for trying. At least you got the guts to try, blah, blah, blah. And usually the candidate feeling pretty good, his stomach's full. You go, hey, sir, you mind if I try again? Can I come back? And the answer every time, without exception, is no. It's you can have a change of mind, but you cannot have a change of heart. You will never get to come to this program again because you don't have the heart. You changed your mind, but you didn't have the heart. And that's what they're doing. They're looking for your mind just to shit the bed out there and your heart to shit the bed. And they want to see which one's going to keep you going, right? So a lot of people mentally start having these issues, and they want to quit. It becomes very emotional, nobody's talking to me, nobody's calling me by my name, and it sucks, it's cold, it's wet, and I'm tired and everything hurts. What they're looking for is the guy that's going, you know what, my body's broken, but I'm going to push it anyways. I'm going to make it no matter what. Right. And that's what they're looking for. And there's guys that have gone through that program that, look, I've heard some guys out there on the podcast, some very famous guys. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to mention their names, that went through Delta Force, Actually, one of them kind of lied, but that's neither here nor there right now. And he didn't make it, and he said he didn't make it because he hurt his ankle. He had an owie, and so they medically withdrew him. And they said, hey, you did a good job. You can come back. That's what they tell everybody, right? They medically withdraw you. Yeah. So he felt good about, hey, see, they wanted me back. No, everybody gets to come back if they're medically withdrawn. But he used that as, and so he played that up. And I know a lot of guys that play that kind of stuff up. But here's the thing. Here's the guys that make it. One of my teammates, when he went through, he broke both tibias and didn't tell anybody. He duct tapes himself together, right? He splits himself, duct tapes himself together, and makes it through the course with 2 broken legs. Didn't tell anybody about it because he didn't want to get medically withdrawn, right?
Right.
He makes it through the course, and at the end, when he's in the rear, he has to go. We all have to do a medical evaluation, make sure we're okay now. And he's like, hey, can you check the wheels? I think I got a couple of flat tires, right? And they're like, geez, you broke both legs, right? So it was incredulous. And so they splinted him up, cast him up, and then he still sat in front of the commander's board. And they're like, that's the kind of guy we want right there. Guy's got 2 broken legs and still made it through the course. Right. Even if it meant he had to walk on his hands, he made it. So they actually sent him to, I think, San Antonio, Texas, to a veterinarian.
Veterinarian?
Yeah, because this guy was like an expert at inserting, I guess, steel rods into like a horse's leg, and so they sent him there, right? He's the expert. So they actually put rods in this guy's legs. He came back a year later, and one of the best operators we had. Oh, no doubt about
Christ.
it. Yeah. Finally, I just had enough. In fact, it was I made the decision one night. That's what I call my final ambush. I got ambushed pretty bad one night, and I thought, man, if I get out of this one, this is it. Because, I was like getting 40, I was 47, 48 at the time, married, kids, and...
You got ambushed by who? Where?
Taliban. Yeah, Afghanistan.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I've been ambushed a lot. But the final, this was
the final ambush?
Yeah, the reason this was the final for me was... usually what happens is you drive along, you move along, you get ambushed, right? And then you either fight back or you run away. And so in this scenario, we actually got boxed in. We were on a road that was along the very deep and a very fast-moving river. And then on the other side was nothing but mountains. And then we had one road that paralleled the river. running south to north, north to south. And there was about a 7-kilometer stretch that the Taliban owned, right? And I mean, they were hitting like logistics trucks all the time. You know, there's burned out hulks everywhere.
Yeah.
But anyways, we had to go through there, and we had to do a link up with another one of our elements coming from south to north. Well, they were running late, and we ended up stopping kind of at a halfway point, and we were literally sitting on the X for the Taliban. And they're on the radios. We could hear them because we got our interpreters on the radios listening to them, to the chatter. And so they had set up 2 IEDs and 2 ambush sites on both ends of the convoy. We had 23 vehicles, and they had boxed us in. And so we could hear what they're strategizing. We could hear the commander talking to his guys what they're going to do. Actually, what they were going to do is run between the vehicles, so we're in a crossfire. And they had already selected the vehicles they wanted to take because they wanted to grab all the guns off of it and stuff. So they're pretty good at that kind of stuff. And so we're stuck in this site. We had already split an element off. About 10 vehicles had gone further south to meet this other element. On the way back, they got ambushed, took casualties, and they made it back. We started doing our triage and giving medical aid and things like that. And then we realized, okay, we got a choice, guys. We either drive south or north, but either way, we're going through ambush, right? So we're going to be fighting out of this one, and which is crazy, right? You usually don't drive into an ambush deliberately to get out of it, right? But we had no choice at this point.
Right.
So we're like, all right, we're going to turn the vehicles around, face them north. We had basically 23 Toyota Hilux pickup trucks. Some of them were up armored, you know, but most of them were thin skinned. And we had, you know, each vehicle had about 5 dudes on it, guys on the back with heavy machine guns. So 23 vehicles, and we were spread out about 50 meters per vehicle. So we're doing a little over a kilometer, over a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile spread out. And the road was a really bad road. It was just bumpy, dirt road, rocks. About max speed you could attain was about 5 miles an hour. It was just a really rough road, right? It's not like the highway. And so we get the vehicles turned around. We had already called for air support. Only thing we could get was one Apache H6. And he had already expended all his ordnance supporting the element that was in contact already downrange from us. And so he called bingo, which means he's out of ammo, right? And had to go down further south, refuel, refit. And then we were waiting for him to come back and escort us going back north. And what we're going to have him do is strafe the road in front of us and just start clearing the sides of the road. And then we're just going to start beating feet up the road. And but what's funny was the Taliban commander was telling his guys to sit fast. He goes, and he knew what we're doing. He goes, they're waiting on the helicopter to come back.
Oh,
they already knew all this stuff, right? And normally when they ambush you, it's a long distance ambush. They, 50, 200 meters, 250 meters, 300 meters from afar, usually plunging fire. In this case, they were right on top of us, like within 50 meters. And that was their plan was, as soon as a helicopter comes in, get right on the road because he's not going to strafe the road with the vehicles there, right? So they'll negate his capability, and then they're going to jump between the vehicles and cause a crossfire.
Are we in like a city area with a lot of buildings?
No,
or
you're
out in the middle of nowhere.
Very in the middle of nowhere. Way out in nowhere.
Remote.
Yeah,
Okay.
in the mountains of Afghanistan, Pakistan, on the border there.
Okay.
Along a place that's called the Kunar River.
Okay.
And pitch black, and so we got it all figured out. Okay, guys, 50-meter spread. Once the H comes in, we'll execute. And we had basically, we told everybody, I said me, and I had 3 other Americans with us. So it was 4 Americans and about, I don't know, maybe 100 Afghans and soldiers. And we said, listen, guys, every every truck, run your guns. Shoot at everything and anything that could hide the Taliban behind it, right? And just don't shoot each other, right?
Wow.
So one by one, I remember I was vehicle number 15, and I had
Out of how many?
Out of 23.
23.
And I had all the antennas because I had the command vehicle with the radios in it, right? And I said, which basically says, shoot here, right? Shoot here, command element. Right. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm watching through my night vision goggles. The H comes in, he can't do much, and I kind of starts loitering a little bit. And then
is it like a countdown before you have to start going through the ambush? Was it like a...
No, it's just, we waited for when the bird came in bounds. Okay, bird's 10 seconds out, 5 seconds out. All right, execute, right? As soon as he comes in, you start running guns. So So the first vehicle takes off, and I'm watching through my night vision goggles, and you see freaking rounds of tracers going in all directions. Then the second vehicle, then the third vehicle, and you think about it, each one's 50 meters apart, right? And can do about 5 miles an hour. It's like the march of the penguins, man. It's like one at a time, and I'm sitting there watching this show, and I'm sitting there thinking, Jesus Christ, this is the first time I've ever drove deliberately, and we knew there was an IED waiting for us because there was an S-turn on the side on this mountain, and that's where they laid all the IEDs because they hit a lot of vehicles there. We knew they were there. We could hear them talking about it. I was like, ah, shit, we're going to get hit by an IED most likely. So I'm watching them go one by one by one. I had plenty of time to watch and think, it was a good show. And then I remember thinking, man, what if I don't make it this time? And I thought, you know what? I can't be distracted by what ifs. Yeah. And so I remember thinking about my wife, my kids. I saw them each one's face one by one. Just flashing from my eyes for a minute. Thought about each one. Go down the list, right? Really long list, no. And so, boom, 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 boom.
All the ex-wives too?
Yeah, all the no, yeah. Thought about how much money they're not going to get. Yeah, a bunch of bandits, man. Holy cow. Don't get me started on that conversation.
I won't.
Yeah.
Sorry, I killed the moment.
Yeah, but no. So
you're like meditating on
basically,
all your kids.
I just wanted to, what I want to do is just clear my mind so that when I do this deliberate move, I'm not distracted by anything other than business, what I got to do, right? So that's what I did. So like, all right, get that out of your mind right now. Say goodbye in your mind. Okay, it's over. Now focus on the task ahead, right? So boom, off I go. It's my turn. And I got one Afghan with me in the right side and one in the back seat, my interpreters. Mm-hmm. And I remember the road was so bumpy that I broke the front right strut on my vehicle. And the inside, the tire was rubbing on the inside of the fender wheel well.
Holy shit.
Long enough for it to catch on fire, right? And so I got a front right wheel that's on fire. It's burning. I'm freaking trying to push this thing down the road, at 5 miles an hour. And shit, we're shooting out the windows and cars and stuff like that. But finally, we make it out. And, we get to the other side. We stop. We regroup. I think we lost. We didn't lose, but we had 7 or 9 vehicles get shot up pretty bad. We had several guys get shot in the body armor, get wounded, but nobody was KIA'd on that one. And we're like, well,
wow,
yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah, we were lucky, right? And then we're listening to the radio, and we could hear the Taliban commander asking the trigger man for the IED. He goes, why didn't you detonate the IED? And he literally told me already, because I couldn't. He goes, they were shooting at everything. I couldn't get my head up behind the log to pull to hit the plunger, right?
Right.
So it actually worked. Just laying bullets down just kept everybody's heads down until we could pass through the gauntlet. So that's why he didn't fire the IED.
Man.
Yeah.
Good God.
But when I got out of it, I was, I kept my word to myself. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna, not because I'm scared, just tired, man. 10 years of just that. Plus, I've been in every conflict from literally 1983 Grenada to the present conflicts, to include Yemen.
Yemen?
Yeah, I was in Yemen as a mercenary. And so at that time, I was just like, I
was talking to Julian the other day. He's like, get him to talk about Yemen. He calls it Yemen like no one else. Some people call it Yemen. Dale calls it Yemen.
Yemen.
Yemen. That's fucking amazing.
Whatever
dude.
it is, the white country, man. Yeah, that was a shit show too. But
so after that, you kept the promise to yourself and you decided no more combat.
Yeah. So prior to that deployment. All right, so this was the raid on Modelo prison. So what happened was back in the day with Noriega, right? So he started coming a little bit off the rails. Mm-hmm. So they caught a guy named Kurt Muse. Kurt Muse, even though he'll deny it, was a knock for the CIA, right? Non-official cover, posing as a business guy, and then I'm just
meaning he's like completely deniable.
Yeah,
the CIA can deny him.
Well, that's what he's right. But it's no denying. So then he's like, I'm a business guy. Oh, I think I'm gonna start a Rotary Club. So he starts a Rotary Club, right? Right? Like he's a hobby communicator, right? CB guy. But actually what he was doing was running SIGINT ops against Noriega. So he's literally jamming his speeches, all kinds of stuff, right? And Noriega was onto him and his group of guys, and they finally caught him and they put him in the Modelo prison, the model prison. Mm-hmm. And so he was locked up in there. He was going to probably get executed at some point we knew he was in there. We knew where he was. But why did we know? Because we were able to send doctors in to do a welfare check. They would come back, go, yeah, this is what they're going to do. So the decision was made when the invasion starts, before the invasion starts, that we would go in as Delta and rescue this guy first, right, out of the prison. Otherwise, we'll never get to him. So that's how it went down. So it was actually, H hour was midnight of December 20th. And we ended up going in at 002 hours, 20 minutes later, because we were compromised. Why were we compromised? Because somebody called home to Mommy, said, Mommy, I think something's going to happen tonight in Panama. If I don't ever see you again, I love you. A couple of guys did that shit, believe it or not. And that's OPSEC violation. And so that got intercepted.
Jesus.
Got sent to Noriega. So now he started plussing up the army around the prison and the commandancy, the headquarters, which were right across the street from each other. So now there's a lot of activity. Our snipers call back 7 hours out and I go, man, something's going on here. A lot of vehicles, gun trucks showing up, a lot of activity. And, oh yeah, a lot of civilians showing up in their cars and lawn chairs expecting the Mardi Gras parade or something, right? So like, what is going on here? So it was pretty bad. So the only thing we could do is move our H hour 20 minutes to the right, because what happened was the 82nd Airborne Division, the Rangers, everybody was in the air already flying. There was probably 100 plus aircraft, C-130s, 141s en route, right? So that's a big radar signature. And there's no way we could turn them back at this point. So the operation had to go. Only thing we could do is just shift it right 20 minutes. Maybe that would make a difference. If they thought it was midnight and we don't show up, they might let their guard down. We don't know. But anyways, we did it anyways. And we went in and basically landed on the roof of the prison. It was, again, total of 15 helicopters. 4 helicopters landed. One of them was mine. I was the breacher on this thing. And went in and rescued. I blew the doors open on the top of the building. And then we went in, started clearing the prison. They actually had, if I remember right, 64 prison guards on the ground floor, and they augmented with another 60 or 65 Panamanian Defense Force soldiers. So they had 120 shooters on the ground floor sandbagging, because they were actually expecting a ground assault. They weren't ready for an air assault.
So did this guy you were going in to exfiltrate, did he know you guys were coming?
He did not.
No.
No. In fact, his book is called 6 Minutes to Freedom. And he talks about his experience, what happened to him, and what he observed and, was able to assess inside the cell when all this was going down. Wow. But yeah, I just did a documentary on this up in New York that's going to come out maybe at the end of the summer on Netflix. It's called SOF True. And that's one of the stories that's going to be talked about, because I was the breacher on this thing. So I kind of give the whole detailed version of it. So that'll be out. It's kind of out on Discovery and History Channel, but not full of details. But yeah, so I forgot where I was going with that. But yeah, that was the.
You were saying you broke through the top, and you guys went in there, and they expected you guys to come from the ground, and you guys came from the air.
So we breached from the top. I actually was a breacher on it. There's a story. So what happened was, because there's some misinformation out there, and people don't know what they don't know. I'm the only guy in front of this door, literally. Raging gunfight. I run out there with my explosives. I pre-calculated everything, set the charge up. The charge came off the door because we were told by the CIA it was a solid steel door. So I built the charge accordingly. It was about 78 inches long. It was 2 pounds of explosives. It's a lot. That's way overkill. But I didn't care, because I knew nobody would be on the other side of that cupola when I blew it up, that annex. And when I got there, to my surprise, it was a jail door 6 inches from the steel door. That wasn't told to me. So now I have these jail bars, and I'm going to try to attach an explosive charge from the top to the bottom, 78 inches long. And guess what I'm losing? I'm losing charge to surface contact, because all I got are the bars, right? And the sticky adhesive is not going to stick that well on just the little bars going up there, right? Yeah. And so what ended up happening was the charge actually fell off the door as I pulled the firing system. And one of the fuse igniters misfired. Okay, no big deal. I turned around, ran back out there, picked it back up, put it back on there, went through the process again, and I pulled the one good fuse igniter. It did finally go. Charge went off, blew the doors in. We went inside, took care of business, and got Kurt Muse out. And within 6 minutes from the time we executed to lift off, it was 6 minutes total. And his bird was the first bird to leave the roof and the first bird to get shot down, Kurt Muse.
What?
So we put him inside one of the little birds, right? The little flying eggs. And we had 2 assaulters on each side plus the pilots. And when they lifted off the roof, because the helicopters were so heavy, they have to get a running speed. They can't just lift off. They had to literally get a little bit of clearance off the ground, get forward speed. As they get forward speed, they start getting lift under the rotors, which helps them go up. Well, in this case, the pilot, for whatever reason, couldn't get enough lift. He dived off the roof, which is 4 stories high, and to get a little bit of airspeed. And when he did, he took it up the ass from everybody on the ground floor. They just lit him up, right? And so he goes down the road just a little bit, about a quarter, not even a block, and makes a left turn, hits a power line, gets shot down again, and ends up crashing in the street. Everybody survived. Kurt Muse was the only guy that didn't get hurt on that crash. We had one guy get shot in the chest, one guy get shot in the leg. We had one guy literally got hit in the head with a rotor strike, took his helmet, chopped his helmet in half.
He lived?
Yeah. Dude, he was on medicine. That was his second helicopter crash in a month. And 5 months later, he was on a helicopter with me again. We crashed again, and that one paralyzed him for life. So he had 3 helicopter crashes in about 6 months. And that third one put him, paralyzed him for life. He was my assistant team leader. But yeah, it was a successful mission. We lost 2 helicopters. No major casualties. None of our guys got killed. A lot of their guys got killed, but none of our guys got killed. So that was that was Modelo Prison, and pretty hooah night for me.
Wow.
Yeah. So because what happened was, before I went there, I've told this story like 100 times already. What happened was, before I went there, I was actually in the Q course, become a Green Beret, right? So
the Q course?
Yes, the qualification course, Special Force qualification course. And so the unit released me for 6 months to go to that court to training. I got out of training. As soon as I showed up, I think it was December, something like the 14th or something like that. Show up to work, and my team was like, hey, we're rehearsing for this operation that's probably going to go down in Panama. This is what it is, blah, blah, blah. So we're out doing training. The first day I'm out training, the very first day, the very first evolution, I get blown up. Literally got blown up. Got hit in the leg with a flashbang, and I got a lot of shrapnel on my leg. I ended up in the hospital. They had to debride it, cut it all open, staple it together, put me back together, and then now I'm on staff duty. So basically my job was to sit in the office, the main office of the building at night, and answer the phone when nobody's there, right? So I'm in charge of quarters, so to speak, staff duty, right? So I got to wear a suit, and which sucks because I don't know how long I'm going to be, laid up like this. And on the December, I think 16th or 17th, I think it was the 17th, I get a phone call from Joint Special Operations Command on the red phone. I answer it. Hey, this is whatever, JSOC, blue spoons in effect, notify your unit, alert unit. So I was, holy shit, this is real. So I page everybody in. It was my squadron was on alert. They show up. They're loading out. Got 2 hours to get ready and get down range and get on the airplane and leave. And I was debriefing the troop commander. His name was Gary Harrell, General Harrell. Now he's passed, but he comes in. I give him the debrief. He said, here's what happened, sir. Here's the intel, blah, 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 blah. We're going to do this. They're going to do that. And then he's like, good to go. Okay. So he starts to leave. He walks out the office. He stops, turns around, comes back in. He looks at me, goes, hey, man. He goes, look. He goes, I know, you got a bad leg, your crutches, blah, blah, blah. You're going through an ugly divorce again, right? So he's like, but he goes, I wouldn't feel right if I didn't invite you to come along. He says, you don't have to. Obviously, you're on profile, but he goes, this is going to be the Super Bowl, man. This is what we've been training for. You're the breacher, you're the guy with the explosives. He goes, love to have you, but if you don't, I understand. And I looked at him, I said, you ain't got to ask me twice, man. Suit came off.
I'm in.
Yeah, I hobbled down to my team room, loaded all my shit, got in my flight suit, put my assault boots on, and went down range with him. So I never really got to see the target or practice on the target or anything. The first time I actually saw it and practiced on it was when I was on it. And so we're down in Howard Air Force Base. Nobody knows we're there to do anything. They just think we're anybody else. They're training and stuff. And we're building charges. We're kind of going through all the planning. And then the night when we did the assault, I had the medics come and take all the staples out of my leg and tape it up really good because I don't want to rip it while I'm running around the roof. So they fixed me up pretty good. And then and now there it is. And I'm now the breacher on this target. Now what's interesting is, so we were flying Task Force 160th. They're probably the best, no doubt, the best helicopter pilots in the world. Special Operations Aviation Regiment, SOAR. And so we were flying little birds. You've probably seen the little flying eggs with the little pods on the outside. Guys are sitting on the outside. They're strapped in, right? Okay. Those are H-6s. Yep. Now, at that time, those particular helicopters, as I was told by one of the pilots, had they had the same engines they put in irrigation sprinkler systems for like farm fields, right? So they, the big sprinklers, right? They have a motor that runs all that stuff. Well, it's the same motor they put in the helicopter. So it's like, so we're flying on a sprinkler. He goes, right? And he goes, and it doesn't have a lot of power, enough to squirt water, but not really, carry a lot of weight. So that was like one of the, earlier generations. So the problem was we're going to infill with a lot of equipment, 4 guys on each helicopter, 2x2 on the pods, plus our armor, our gear, explosives. We're bringing in other breaching tools like thermal torches, a lot of stuff, right? Just in case we can't get in, cutting torches, cutting saws. And so what we realized right away was we're going to exceed the aircraft load. The ACL is what they call it, right? Too much weight. So like, well, shit, we can't give up any. We didn't even carry water. We had no water. It's like we got nothing else we can strip. In fact, they weighed every operator to get a baseline and see what our weights are. I was the lightest guy with 70 pounds of shit on my ass. 70 pounds, man. Christ. And I was a small dude at the time. I was 164 pounds. So I was the lightest guy. So what they did was, okay, we're going to have to strip avionics out of these helicopters, right? So they just pulled stuff out they didn't need. Just, you don't need that. What is it? Compass? Yeah, you don't need that. Just fly in that direction, right? Just out. And it still wasn't enough for 2 of the helicopters. Guess what they did? They removed a pilot out of each helicopter. So 2 of the helicopters only had 1 pilot, and 2 of them had 2 pilots. Yeah, and guess what? The 2 helicopters had 2 pilots. Each had 1 pilot get shot.
Oh my God!
So, yeah, there was. They did everything they could just to skeletonize this thing, right?
Yeah.
So we could get the airframe up, and even then it was still a little too heavy. That's why we had to get these running starts.
Yep.
And we couldn't just sink it and land. We had to come in really slow and float it down. But it worked, and they're much stronger today and more dynamic. But at that time, that's what we had to work with. So,
Good.
But yeah, it was a great night. Honestly, when I think about it, it's like all our training, everything I ever dreamed of, but about being in the unit happened that night. It's like, man, we made history. This is big, man.
How many guys were you with total?
A total of 26 of us.
26.
So we had guys stay on the roof and engage targets from the roof, like the towers across to the commandancia. And then we had 2 assault teams, my team and one other team, go inside. So we had total about 11 guys actually go in to the building looking for them and clearing it. Remember, we got 120 something dudes on the ground floor that are waiting for us. Now so we get in, we finally get to Kurt Muse, the interrogator was there with him, was giving instructions that if you hear any gunfire, if you think they're coming, just go in there and let the air out of Kurt Muse, right? Kill him. That was his instructions. We knew that because the doctors told us that. And so we knew we had to hurry. So as we get in the door, there were other guards already down there, right? And they just didn't want nothing to do with this thing. They just dropped their shit and lay down on the floor and just went prone. And I was like, oh, I don't want to fight. I said, they didn't fight and we didn't kill them. Okay, we just flux cut them and said, okay, you're out of play. When the team actually breached the door with the interrogator and Kurt Muse in it, so think of it, one big room and then you got a jail cell room with Moose in it, right? So when they breached the main door, the interrogator grabbed his handgun and ran. There was a small shower stall. I actually have a picture of it. But he got in the shower stall and he stood there with his hands up, gun up, ready to shoot anybody coming through the door. Now, one of the guys, his name was James. James is also gone. But James saw him running, so he runs right after him, chases him into the shower. James has got a car 15. This dude's waiting for him to come in. And James shoots the guy in the chest 4 times and kills him. The guy never got a shot off.
Wow.
Right? Just drops him right there. Boom, 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 boom. There's a reason that happens, by the way. This might be something that might interest some of the listeners out there. There's a thing called general adaptation syndrome, right? Or stress shock phenomena. And so what happens is, basically this guy went into stress shock phenomena and he didn't know what to do, right? So there's different responses to stress. There's fight, there's flight, there's freezing, there's there's basically fainting, submission. There's different responses, right? The only real response is either run or you fight, right? Everything else is a non-starter, right? So it's going to get you killed. But the problem was the guy was standing in there and he was trying to figure out what he's going to do, and he wasn't prepared to fight, right? He hadn't made the decision in his mind that he's ready to pull the trigger and kill a man. There's another aspect of it called resolving your own death. If you've never resolved your own death, in other words, if you go into combat and you're not prepared to die that day, you're probably going to not perform like you need to, right? So and you're going to hesitate or you're going to balk. And there's a lot of studies that support this thing.
How does one be prepared to die?
Well, it's called resolving your own death. That's the most important one, right? So, for example, if I was a police officer, right, every day I'd go leave my house, kiss my wife goodbye. I'm prepared not to come back, right? That might be my last day on the job. But not only am I prepared not to come back, I also know I did everything I'm supposed to do to make sure my wife and kids are taken care of.
Right.
So if I am gone, they've got insurance, everything's paid for, everything's caught up, right? So that's called, so I know I won't hesitate in that one moment where I'm like, oh shit, I didn't pay for the insurance this month or whatever, right? Or maybe I haven't made peace with, God or whatever it is I believe in, right? I'm still sitting on the fence. And I've seen guys hesitate. Like, no, wait. And then, bam, you're dead anyways. Like, it's too late, man. You're either ready to fight or you're not. And most guys are not. They just haven't resolved their death, right? And they're not committed. And this guy wasn't committed. And there's another aspect to it. So anytime you've heard of startle reflex. Somebody comes and goes, boo, right? So what happens is in that boo phase, you have got to go from this sedentary state that you're in, right? Like right now, we're kind of like relaxed. So if some dude just walks in right now with a 12 gauge and opens up, guess what's going to happen? You and I have to switch gears from this. We're going to have to go from fifth gear and cruising. We're going to have to downshift to third gear, right? We're going to have to secrete epinephrine, norepinephrine, cortisol. There's a lot of things that have to happen in our body to prepare to either run or to fight, okay? And so that's going to take some time. I don't know, hundreds of a second. But when we're talking about fighting and combat, every tenth of a second, hundredth of a second matters, right? And so you're still behind the 8 ball. When that guy surprises you, you're actually now playing catch up, right? So in the military, we have 3 tenets for combat: surprise, speed, violence of action. Surprise, speed, violence of action. I actually have 4: surprise, speed, violence of action, and momentum. All right, that's the last one I put in. And I have a reason for it, but so. Surprise, when you surprise somebody, what happens is you put them in this stress shock phenomena, this general adaptation, right? They got to go through this physiological change to prepare to run or fight. Well, while they're going through that, which only takes a little bit of time, they're still behind the 8 ball, and the other guy's got the advantage on you. And the only way you can overcome that guy is you've got to surprise him. So you have to do something unexpected he wasn't ready for, right? So maybe guy comes with a shotgun, he takes a shot, and I throw his hot coffee thing at him, right? That's unexpected, so he's going to duck and dodge. So now I've kind of taken him out of the fight, right? So I was in what we call the OODA loop. I was in his OODA loop, and now I put him back into my OODA loop. I don't know if you know what OODA means, but OODA is a term stands for observe, orient, decide, act. Okay? So I have to observe. Dude just came with a shotgun. I've got to orient. What am I going to do? I'm going to throw a coffee, this coffee pitcher at him. But when I orient, I'm also moving, changing my orientation and making a decision. What am I going to do? And then I have to act. So that's the loop, right? The cycle. Observe, orient, decide, act. Observe, orient, decide, act. So when he comes to the door and goes, surprise, and he shoots, I'm in his OODA loop. He's making me react to everything, right? I'm not controlling him. He's controlling me. I'm no longer controlling the situation. He's controlling the situation, right? What I want to do is control the situation. I want to control him. The only way I can do that is reverse the momentum. Now, how do I do that? Well, maybe I'm lucky he didn't get me with the first shot. I rolled to the floor and I was able to pull my handgun out and take the shot back. So, I reversed the momentum. So these are some principles of combat. That it's not that complicated, but once you understand it, you realize that combat, like any kind of combat, whether it's armed combat or empty hand combat, a street fight, bar fight, it's all psychological, right? So if you know that the other guy's probably not prepared, right, and even if he is prepared, you could surprise him, and for example, we used to do force-on-force training in the unit, right? So today, let's say all our assault teams are going to go out down to the training area, and we're going to do CQB. We're going to clear the rooms, the buildings, okay? And who's going to be the aggressors? Okay, my team will be the aggressors, so my team is the aggressors, right? So we're waiting in the rooms. We know the other assault teams out there are going to come in. We know what the SOP is because we all live off the same SOP. We know they're going to come in. We know what they're going to do. They're going to shoot us with submunitions, right, or wax bullets or whatever. They're going to throw flashbangs in. And we're standing ready for them. And guess what? they come in and they still win the fight. You know why? Because they got the element of surprise. Even though I know they're out there, they throw a flashbang in. And then the other element of surprise is speed. They move so fast and so fluid that I can't decide who I want to shoot first in that 1/10 of a second. And while I'm trying to make the decision, shoot that guy, the other guy's already shot me, right? So even when they have the element of surprise and we're aware of it, they can still win because they're using this speed, they use violence of action, and they're basically overwhelming you. And I call it momentum. They're going to basically keep running you over until you can't get up no more, right? It's like, so it can be the same thing in a bar fight. You know, you got a guy bowing up on you, and he wants to fight. You know it's going to turn into a fight. Okay, the fastest way to end that fight, besides, well, I would not necessarily say walk away because you might get hit in the back of the head.
Right.
But let's just say you can't get out of the situation. You know it's going to become a fight. The best thing you can do, I think, is initiate, right? Surprise him with something. And there's different ways to surprise him. Like, for example, you can kind of take, hey, man, I don't want to fight, blah, 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 and maybe spit in his face. And he'd be like, what? And then boom, forearm strike, right? Or you're holding a ball in your hand, hey, man, and you just kind of drop it. He watches it fall. He's watching it fall, man, you left upper hook, right? Uppercut. So you can still do surprise even in that scenario. And once you do that, here's what I found is, especially if you embarrass the other guy. And I've done this before, like really big guys. They'll be talking all kinds of shit with all their friends, and then I just slap them like a woman, man, right? And why do I do that? Because it enrages guys. When you get slapped and it's a loud noise in front of everybody.
Humiliating.
It stings, your nose runs, your eyes water, and it just takes you aback for a second because you really thought, a man would punch me. Why did he slap me? Because he thinks you're a little bitch. That's why, right? And it's almost an insult, but it happens very fast. And then what happens is they get really, really angry, right? They just lose, I'm gonna kill you, right? And they try to hit you with everything but the kitchen sink. But here's the thing. In boxing, so I used to be a professional boxer as well. I've got 2 6-degree black belts, 1st-degree black belt, I'm going on.
Wow.
I know how to fight, right? I've been fighting all my life. And so what happens is, so when a guy gets really mad like that, he becomes enraged. What he does, he wants to crush you. He just wants to kill you. He wants to hit you as hard as he can. In boxing, we have a saying, if it feels strong, it's wrong. In other words, the harder you try to hit a guy, the less effective you're going to be, right? Speed's what kills. So the faster and looser I can throw a punch, it's like a whip. More likely I'm going to hurt you, especially to the head. I'm going to knock you out, give you a concussion, right? And not only that, when you really try to hit somebody really hard, what's happening is you're actually tensing all the muscles to include the muscles required to retract that punch are already engaged. So it feels strong, like, yeah, but there's no heat on it, right? And so the guys I've always knocked out, I didn't even know I hit them. I just started throwing some punches at her, and it's like, huh? I didn't even feel it, right? Because speed. So if I can get a guy if I slap a guy and get him losing his mind, if he's really big, he'll try to rely on his strength, and he's just going to get really slow. And I'm just going to eat him up, man. I fought a guy one time. This was actually a control fight. He weighed 300 pounds. He was a North Carolina powerlifting champion. And I weighed 164 pounds. And he just thought, yeah, I can kick this guy's ass all day long. So let's do this, right? So the first thing I did is I took him to the ground, right? And he could not beat me on the ground, right? I was just too cagey for him. He didn't have any jiu-jitsu skills at all. I have a 1st-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Really?
And and he just couldn't do it, right? He was just too strong. He started gassing out, And then I finally
choke him out?
No, I didn't choke him out. Actually, I got back to my feet because I don't like choking guys out. I like knocking them out. So I get back and throw a roundhouse kick, crack his nose, break his nose. He's bleeding all over the place, And now he's really, really mad, right? It's like, this little guy just beat my ass. Like, man, we can do this all day long, or we just, shake hands and let's do some training now, But speed kills. If it feels strong, it's wrong. These are things to remember. And it's not about how big and strong you are. It's about mindset, right? Particularly combat mindset. And there's a big difference. And I beat guys that that just you just thought they're just gonna eat me alive, man. They're so mean and aggressive. But once you check them real fast, it's all over, man. So combat, the OODA loop, all these things apply through the spectrum of combat, whether it's armed combat, unarmed combat, street fights, combat,
Right. Hold that thought. I got to take a leak.
Yep.
Well, be right back.
Guy calls me, goes, hey, my 17-year-old daughter, she's in Guatemala. A bunch of men are trying to rape her, kill her, rob her and her girlfriends. They they thought it was a good idea to go on a school girls trip to Guatemala for whatever, from Switzerland to Guatemala, right? And now they're in trouble. He goes, can you get my daughter out? I said, sure. He goes, or do you know anybody who can get her out? I go, if I tell anybody about your daughter, who you are, who's a he's mega rich dude. He's like 45 years old. Owns a merchant marine company.
Yeah.
Anyways, I said, you ain't going to get her back for not easy, right? So he goes, so I said, I'll tell you what, I'll go do it. I know the guy. I've worked for him before. I've done stuff for him before. In fact, he used to fly me to Singapore to train his German Shepherd.
Really?
Right? Yeah. Yeah. It was what a deal. I'd fly over there for a week, train his dog, hang out, come back another week, train his dog some more. That's how I got to know him. And he's had me do some other stuff for him. But so in this particular case, I knew his daughter. I said, listen, man, I'll go get your daughter, man. And because I don't trust nobody else at this point. So he paid me a lot of money. A lot of money. And so I flew over. So I left on a Monday morning. He called me Sunday night. I left Monday morning, like at 1 o'clock. Flew to the Philippines, ended up at LAX. And by 7 o'clock that night with the time change, I'm in Guatemala, in the capital, right? I land. Poof. And so she had instructions. So I've already got her on my WhatsApp, right? With him on there and the mom. I said, I need you to meet me at this location. Can you do that? Yes. So she meets me at the airport, but she doesn't have her stuff with her, right? She's coming in from another area. Mm-hmm. I said, just meet me here. So I took her. We went to a Marriott hotel. I had the rooms booked. I put her in a room, make sure she had her food and water. I said, when I lock this door, you don't leave. You hear me? You don't come out for nothing. I don't care what it is. Don't leave the room. Yes, sir. So she stayed there, and I had to catch like an Uber. Mm-hmm. And I'd drive up in these mountains. That's where they were staying. So when they planned this trip, these chicks, right, these high school girls, they thought it was a good idea. Let's go to Guatemala, right? And so they pick a, what do you call it? A hostel, right? But it's like up in the hills in the mountainous area, and it's pitch black up there. There's no light. It's bad. It's like really scary shit. And the night they checked in, as soon as they checked in, dudes were coming through the windows, trying to kick in the doors and attacking all the girls and stuff, right? And so I got to go there to recover her suitcase. So I had the address and everything, and I'm driving up there, and I'm like, you got to be kidding. Who thought this was a good idea, right? So finally, I get to the hotel, if you want to call it that. It was a hostel. The guy had her suitcase, and I grabbed her suitcase. I brought it back, and it's probably about 4 a.m. by the time I got back at this point. And I roused her out of her bed. I said, grab your shit, let's go. And I took her to the airport. We caught the next thing smoking within a couple hours, and I delivered her to her mom and dad in Singapore Thursday morning. So I left Monday night in Bali Thursday morning, same time zone.
Wow.
I handed her off, right? So that's the example of some of the work I do. Had another...
no more like surprise, kill, vanish type stuff.
Not that I can talk about. Hey, I got to be careful, man. That's why I won't mention some countries either. Like this next one, I won't mention the country because I may have to go back there.
Yeah.
So had another guy call me. He was listening to my podcast. So he's an American, and he actually lives in Bali. He's been there for like 20-something years. He's a surfer. Really good guy. Never been in the military. So he meets this girl from Vietnam, gets her pregnant, goes to Vietnam, thinks they're going to get married and have the kid, and she's got other plans. She's like, no, we're not getting married. Yes, I'm having the kids, and that's it. You know. And so, anyways, they go through court for all this crap. Did I mention the country? Yeah.
No, I don't think you did.
No, I didn't mention the country. Okay, it's a different country. So anyway, long story short, she wouldn't let him see the kid, so he goes to an agency that would actually make the arrangements so he could see the kid. He spent a lot of money. No arrangements were made. He goes, hey, man, come on. He goes, oh, you got to pay more money. He goes, I already paid you money. They're like, oh, you arguing with us? So they actually had his passport flagged at immigration, right? So he couldn't travel. They pull his visa, and he can't work. He can't leave. He can't work. It's called a velvet cage. He's not the only guy I've had in this position. I had another guy in Dubai. Same thing happened to him. And so they're trapped in these, what we call, I don't know if Vietnam would be a velvet cage. Dubai might be, but not Vietnam. But anyways, so long story short, he's like, can you get me out? And I said, yeah, I can get you out. But we're going to have to do some talking, some planning and stuff like that. So long story short, I got him out. I can't tell you how I did it because I can't give that secret up. But basically, I didn't have to do anything with paperwork. I didn't forge nothing like that. It was really easy. Just
Right.
walked him out. So actually, I could have swam him out too. There were two options.
Wow.
I had another guy that his wife calls me, and he gets kidnapped in Saudi Arabia. And she goes, "Can you find my husband? He's been kidnapped. How long has he been gone? A year?" I was like, "What? A year, right?" So something wasn't adding up. Then I find out later, after I'm in country, he's a billionaire. You're telling me this guy's a billionaire? He got kidnapped and you just now telling me? And she goes, "Yeah." Then I find out he's actually in a prison called Daman Prison, right? And there's a lot of expats in there, by the way. He's not expat. He's actually got dual citizenship, which is British and Saudi. And so while I'm there, I've got a couple guys with me, and all we need to do is confirm where he's at. We know we think he's in the prison. We just need to confirm he's in the prison, right? And so, but what we can't do as tourists, we can't actually actively do stuff like that because that would be considered like work, and we'll end up in Daman prison too, like for a very long time, like a lot of these guys, without ever getting a day in court.
Right.
And so as I started doing my research, I realized this dude's dad is a minister of oil and energy for Saudi Arabia. He's Forbes' top 50th guy, richest guy in the world.
What?
I said, how does he not know his kid's rolled up? He's got to know his kid's rolled up. His kid's like 40-something years old too, right? He's not a kid. He's an older guy. And something wasn't adding up at all, man. I was like, you know what? We're out of here, man. So she paid me a lot of money just to go do that. But I think there was something else going on. I think what she wanted to do is goes, yeah, I tried to find him. I paid people to go find him and they couldn't find him. So I want a divorce now and half his money, right? That's probably the play or all of his money because he's probably dead. That's what she's going to say. But those are the kind of jobs I get sometimes and I actually enjoy those. Others are, sometimes companies have problems with, this is actually something that's not just, this actually happens quite a bit. So a lot of times a company will hire somebody and maybe bring them on the board, right? They're an executive level, or in their IT department, or they're a family member, something like that. And what will happen is, because I've done a couple of these already, these characters will then build another internet system, an intranet system behind the company's internet system, right? So you don't know it's there, but what they're doing is they're siphoning off clients and money from the host, right, through their company, and they're stealing clients and they're laundering money, right? And so what happens is if somebody dials in and goes, hey, this company's doing that, they don't even see the company in the background. It's just basically invisible, right? And these guys just tear everything down and freaking leave. And this guy's got to prove how he didn't, launder money, whatever he did. I've seen it happen with very large companies, and I've also seen it with small family-owned companies where family feuds, and they're doing shit like that to each other. Literally stealing the companies from each other, siphoning money off, blocking everything so they can't get on. I had something similar happen to my first company as well with my business partner.
So what do they call you in to do for that?
Well, one, go in and try to go through the system and find the doors, and also try to pin down exactly who's doing it, where they're doing it, how they're doing it, right? So we have that evidence, so we can show that these guys are nefarious actors. It's very difficult in the IT world, but I've got a team that can do all that. I'm not smart enough to do it by myself. They can actually do all that. So now we have the issue of target list. So the target list has 42 characters on it, right, and 3 countries. So we're not just here. We're going to go other places and take care of some people, right? So, so the first guy on the list, and I'll say this because this was on a BBC documentary not too long ago. They lied, by the way, too. I just say that right now.
That's a surprise.
They're full of shit. But I had to get on there to do something to keep us all out of trouble because the SEAL that was involved in this thing would have gotten us in trouble. He's an idiot. So anyways, long story short, the first guy on the list was a guy named Ansaf Mayu, and he was the head of the Al-Islah political party. So the Al-Islah political party is an extension of the Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, they're bad guys. And Muslim Brotherhood was building barracks for Al-Qaeda in Yemen. And so they have what's called ACAP, Al-Qaeda Arabic Peninsula, AQAP. There's a lot of them. They were on every street corner. Like, I was this far away from them sometimes. They'd be like looking in the window trying to see in, and I'm looking at them with my weapon, like getting ready to let the air out of them, right? That's how close they were, and that's how many there were. And the Muslim Brotherhood was building them barracks to house them. So you also had, you had the Houthis, you had the Muslim Brotherhood, you had Al-Qaeda, you also had elements from ISIS there as well. In fact, so we're looking at the list. Number 1 guy is this guy Ansaf Mayu, and as I go down the list, number 7, I forget his name now off the top of my head, but he was the USS Cole bombing mastermind. He's the guy that blew up the Cole bomb, set that all up, right? And he's there in Yemen. Like, what the hell? And he's got a house on a 4-way intersection across the street. He's got a madrasa, and he's walking around freely, no problem. And what he's doing, he's literally running ISIS fighters. He's running through a pipeline through his madrasa and then sending them to Syria. So we're like, oh, no, this got to be the number 1 guy. We got to take this guy out first, right? And then we brought it up to the MOD. He goes, no, this is my list, it's my country, and this is the target number 1, and he's number 7. I'm paying the bills. Like, shit, okay. So we get the first 6, right? So, so the first guy we go after, finally, we had all kinds of options on the table to take him out, right? So,
what's the best option?
Well,
what's your preferred option?
Just walk up and shoot him, right? That would have been the preferred option, but that wasn't easy because this guy was very, he was really good at tradecraft. He had been trained, right? So he was really good at not sleeping in the same place twice. He was good at watching his back. He traveled security detail. He was taking security measures all the time. And
are you guys really worried about covering your tracks and not being detected by anyone else?
Yeah,
or not?
Yeah,
you guys don't want this. This should not be like a public thing, right? This should be like super covert and
yeah, absolutely,
secret.
because we're the only white faces in the country.
Yeah,
and so they would have for sure dialed in on us, man. Let me explain what it looked like there at the time. So you got all these different groups. So if we left the gate wire, we would actually get inside of an MRAP and cover up, right? We would all hodge it up and stuff, right? Try to blend in. And the Al-Qaeda, nobody messed with the Emiratis. There was like this unspoken truth. You don't mess with us, we don't mess with you. And that stemmed from a VBID that went off in the front gate and killed about 40 Emirati soldiers. When that happened, the Emiratis were like, okay, we don't, we'll be here, but we're not playing this game. We're not risking any more lives. So they're kind of like showing off, right? And so basically, in fact, at the airport, so the Emirati military occupied the airport, but guess who controlled the gates going in? Al-Qaeda. Like, how's that work? Right? And so they control the gates going in and out, and that's how we would travel into there, is we'd be in the back of the MRAP, all hodge it up, and like, hey, come on in. It was that kind of a situation. It was kind of weird, right?
Wow.
But the thing was, you could drive down any road at any time, and about every kilometer, there would be another checkpoint. Now, it's either going to be the Yemenis resistance, it's going to be the Houthis, it's going to be Al-Qaeda, or maybe an ISIS faction there. But there's always going to be somebody else is owning different checkpoints along the way.
Yeah.
And usually they didn't harass the Emirati military. So we'd get away with driving around the back of their trucks. But if we had left the gates in our own vehicles, and in fact, they saw us one time inside of MRAP. I knew the guy picked up. I was like, what? And he could see our white little faces. Yeah, and you could see him running and spinning up and getting on the radios and trying to call us like, oh shit, get the hell out of here. But yeah, for sure, man, they'd have killed us if they caught us. That was a very dangerous place. Very dangerous place. But that's kind of the situation with the enemy situation, if you will. It was just the country's just decimated, man. I mean, it's just like totally just destroyed. And so we're like, okay, well, we need to find this guy, Ansaf Mayu. How do we find him? And so we were able to get one of their sources, human sources, right, to come in and tell us what they know and actually work for us. So we're like, look, if you can help us find this guy, we think his office is over here, but he travels around a lot. He's got a motorcade, just pick up trucks and stuff, with guns on it. If you can locate this guy for us, let us know. We're going to pay you lots of money, right? Here's a little bit of money now just to show you we're serious, right? So he turned out to be a good source. So we had all these plans, these contingencies plans, because we thought one day he's going to leave and go to the airport. Now, Aden, there's only one flight that leaves the airport per day. One airplane, in and out.
Wow.
Right? That's it, right? So we had intel he's going to fly out. And we're like, well, what day? We're not sure, but the next couple of days. So we did a reconnaissance of the airport roads, the front gate where the Al-Qaeda was, and we made the decision we're going to kill him right here in front of the gate, right? Get some Al-Qaeda while we're at it, but it just seemed like the field was perfect for shooting. We could set up and cover concealment, et cetera. So we kind of planned that one. And then we're going to do another one. We're going to interdict him on a desert road. Then we're actually going to get him on a motorcycle. So what I was going to do is ride up alongside him on a motorcycle up against his vehicle, hodge it out, right? And then we're going to hang a VBID from his mirror. And then
what's a VBID?
Oh, vehicle borne improvised device. Basically,
Okay.
it wasn't a VBID so much. It was just an IED. What I did is I built a charge, very big charge in an ammo can. I call it the mother of all claymores, but it was well over 7 pounds of explosives, and I put fragmentation, all kinds of stuff in. And I designed it so I could actually hang it off his mirror and just drive away. And he couldn't get off the mirror, right? His driver wouldn't be able to get off, and it was too heavy. And with the wiring, by the time he got on, figured out, he blown up, right? So
Wow.
that was a mission. So I had that one set up, and we had about 5 or 6 contingencies to include flying into one of the neighborhoods the Muslim Brotherhood built for Al-Qaeda. We thought he was going to be staying there one night, and so we were actually going to fly in there, do a roof assault, come down, and go get him. But then we'd have to fight our way out of the city, out of that neighborhood.
Right.
Ultimately, what finally happened was we got a intel hit one night about 9:30. Hey, he's in his office downtown Aden right here at this location right now. He went in with his bodyguards and his assistant. They're inside there to just close the doors. Holy shit. So we put the ISR bird up, which is a drone helicopter, and it's flying, it's filming. The source, the human source, he's watching, he's got eyes on from across the street, and he's giving us updates. Go, yeah, they're still in there, still in there, still in there. Drones confirming it. Yeah, they haven't left. Mm-hmm. So what happened was we had made the decision that we would go in with one vehicle, is a Toyota Land Cruiser, level 7 armor, brand new. They had a bunch of them sitting out in the field. They're like, hey, take whatever you want, use whatever. This is the Emiratis are telling us, just whatever you want, use it, right? Because they're going to give it to the Yemenis, anyways, if they win. So, so we had an up-armored Land Cruiser, and what we're going to do, 4 of us, me, Abraham, and 2 SEALs. One SEAL in the back with the Mag 58 machine gun, and then the other SEAL is sitting next to me on the starboard side of the car. Abraham riding shotgun, and then we had a driver who was an Emirati major. Now there was supposed to be no Emiratis involved in this, right? Because the Emiratis don't want any attribution to them, right? That's a little problematic for us because then it looks like just a bunch of gringos coming in here shooting the place up, right? So we figured it out. So we told this guy, I said, listen, you're not allowed to have a gun because then that looks like you're fighting, right? So I said, you can drive if you want to come along and watch the show, but you can't have a gun. You go with that? Yeah, we're good. I'm good with that. He's the first guy to get shot. The only guy to get shot
no.
without the gun, right? So, but he lived. So anyways, we drive in, long story short, we drive in very slow, very dark. There's video of it on the internet from the ISR bird. And we deploy, as soon as we deploy, gunfire starts. And first guy shot, like I said, was our driver. And I ended up running across the street to the office. I tried to go in, tried to open the doors. I was going to frag it with some hand grenades and then just go and start shooting and then place the, I had, basically it was an IED is what it was. And I was just going to place it in an office with our dear friend and then just vaporize the place. But they had locked it from the inside so I couldn't get in, right? So at this point, things are picking up on the street. It's getting really loud and noisy. And all I can imagine was the bodyguards were standing behind the door and going, what the hell is going on out there, right? Mm-hmm. But they didn't want to open the door.
Right.
And unfortunately for them, they're standing behind the door that I'm about to blow up. And I couldn't open it, so I put the charge in the door with the blast directional facing straight into the office. And my goal was to basically take him out with this particular, I call it the mother of all claymores, right? And so I pulled the firing system, and I was supposed to go back to my vehicle, the Land Cruiser. I had rigged it already for, I'd put explosives. Basically, I put an incendiary device in the back of it. What I wanted to do is blow the car up because we're not taking it out. We're going to leave it, right?
Okay.
I don't want to leave it intact, so I'm going to destroy it. So I rigged it with explosives, gasoline, some other stuff, and put it over the gas tank. And I was supposed to go back and detonate it, but I couldn't get back. At this point, the bullets were just zinging by, man. I mean, I'm in somebody's sights. And so I had a contingency plan. One of the SEALs that was with me, he was a good dude, not like the other guy. And I told him, if I don't come back when it's time to exfil, you have to pull the firing system, right? You pull the firing system, get in the MRAP behind you. So that's exactly how it played out. I ended up running north. He pulls a fuse igniter, jumps in the MRAP. By the time he gets in the MRAP, the main charge went off. It just like a nuclear weapon, man, it just leveled everything. And then 10 seconds after that one, the charge in the car went off, and it burned that car to the ground. I mean, like smoldering, nothing left of it, man. Yeah, I got real color pictures of it. It was just a huge bonfire. But it actually worked out pretty good because in the reports, you know, so now they're, you know, the newsies are coming in and go, what happened? What happened? And believe it or not, they actually thought we were Taliban because one of the guys, Abraham, looked like, he had a big beard and his thing going on his head. He just looked like a Taliban fighter. They saw this Taliban dude running up there, and then they thought it was a car bomb that went off. They didn't realize it's actually 2 bombs that went off. So they go, yeah, a car bomb went off, and they didn't know what happened, right? Which is good. And then also the next morning, the assistant to the target, he's all wrapped up, his arms are all wrapped up in bandages and stuff, and he's standing on the stage, you know, talking to, you know, doing a little news conference, telling them, ha ha ha, they didn't get him, you know, but I got him, and we weren't sure if we got him or not, right? I thought for sure I got him. If he's in there, he's dead, right? Yeah. And but this guy's actually standing out here, he's not. Turns out he did actually get away. He actually had left before we showed up, and this is where we're not understanding. We didn't see him, the bird. Huma didn't say he left. What's going on here? But he did get away. He made it to Saudi Arabia. An interesting thing about that was the Saudis wanted his ass. They didn't like him either. So why is he hiding in Saudi Arabia? So that makes me wonder too what's going on there. So all that went down, right? So we get off the X and we report back to the MOD up in Abu Dhabi. So it was me, Abraham, one of the SEALs, I think the 3 of us, maybe 4, and we're going to go to the officers club, meet with him and all his cronies. And I don't have PTSD because I killed somebody or they almost killed me. None of that bothers me because when you go to, if you really are a warrior, soldier, you go in there knowing what you're getting into. It's like being a boxer. I didn't become a professional boxer by being afraid. I went in knowing what's going to happen to me, okay? And I went in and I fought because I enjoyed it. Sounds kind of, okay, maybe a little sick, but I enjoyed the sport. I enjoyed the combat. Same thing with this. I enjoy combat. I enjoy leveraging all my skills, my tactics, my weapon systems, and everything, and meeting the enemy. This is why in Aden, we didn't have anything. I had a 30-year-old Chi-Com AK-47. Literally, Vietnam vintage shit is what I had. I had to make all my gear to carry my magazines. We all did, right? We improvised everything. We were no better equipped and armed than Al-Qaeda. We're going to go on the battlefield with the same tools, right? Same Nikes, but the difference was going to be who is the better soldier. And that's, I know I am, right? So I'm going to beat them all day long because I'm actually a soldier. They're just a bunch of goons, right? And so so I look at it like that. And so I sleep good at night, not because of what I've done. I sleep good because of what I didn't do. I didn't murder nobody. People that had it coming. They deserved it. And the other thing, but the thing that probably bothers me more than anything else, and this is what doesn't trigger me anymore so much, the PTSD. It's not seeing combatants getting killed and you're killing them and them all killing you. It's actually when you start seeing the collateral effect, when you start seeing dead women and children and babies crying and people screaming, you know, that are affected by this. That's the part that you take home, because if you're already a father, as I am, and you're married and just think of your family and you're like, man, you know, like there's one example. I was up in Tikrit, Saddam's home city, right, hometown, and there was a daylight assault, and I was going to lead the unit, right, in a daylight assault on this guy that we know was an IED maker, and but they lived in these row houses over there. You know, they're all connected. It's like one long wall. It's hard to tell which one's which. They all look alike, right? And so I had to go in and do a what do you call a CTR, a close target reconnaissance. So basically, I'm going to go in dressed up like an Arab, you know, hajjed out, in my pickup truck, and I'm going to drive by his house and look at it and positively identify it, PID. Oh, yeah, that's him. That's the car. That's blah, 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 blah. Okay, good. I know my way in. I know the way out. Then I go back. I pick them up. They follow me in. And so that's what we did. And as we go in, there was a red car parked there, and now it's not there. In a little bit of time, it was gone. That was kind of one of my reference points. But I didn't just count on that. But it just made everything look different. There's no more red car here, right? And all these buildings are white. And so I pull up, I'm like, shit. And I'm hoping I'm getting this one right. And I did get it right, because as soon as I slow down, the guys behind me start bailing out. And they're going in full bore, man, through the front gates and stuff. And there's this little kid there on the street, on the sidewalk, about 2 years old. And it turns out it's the target's son. And he's just coming unhinged, man. The kid's screaming, his, oh my God, man, mouth wide open. He's 2 ye's old. He's just freaking, mortified, man. Mm-hmm. And then, these guys are going in, and I'm out of the vehicle, and I got my weapon in hand, starting to, prepare to pick up security for them. And then I look over at this kid, and all I could see was my 2-year-old son standing there, right? And I remember my kid crying like that one time when I left him at the daycare. And it just kind of just all came flashing back, because I felt so bad when I left him at the daycare, because he's looking out the window screaming, his mouth was wide open, and he's, Daddy, that kind of thing. And I had to leave him because I got to go to work. What am I going to do? And that was so hard to do that. And I'm sure a lot of parents can identify with that. And so now I see this kid that reminds me of my own kid, the same crying on his face and screaming. It just brought back all these emotions, man. All I could do was just run over there and grab him. I pick him up in my arm. I'm kind of holding him. Got the rifle in my other hand, trying to pull security. Like, come on, little buddy, it's going to be okay, And they're in there going, tightening up his dad. And so those are the kind of things that can have a real impact, on your emotions and stuff like that. I got so many of these cases. I'll share.
When did it happen to the kid?
Actually, after they picked him up, we went in. We didn't take the women, right? So we only wanted the guy, right? So if there's women in the house, whatever, hey, here's a little boy, right? Take care of him, that type of thing. So we usually just left him. Can't take him out. Dad's going away probably for a very long time. But those are kind of things that you get caught. Like another example, I'll use Afghanistan. I remember one time, so we're in a base camp, a very small base camp. It's just me and 10 or 11 other Americans. 2 of us are shooters. The rest are just support logs, stuff like that. And we are at 7,000 feet elevation on the side of on the ridge of a high mountain. And then we put an OP, a listening post, observation post at 9,000 feet on the tip. We put a platoon up there, right? They're behind HESCO sandbags, right? And their job was provide overwatch. They could see 360, and give us some top cover if we need it. And we rotate them out every month. So next month, another platoon would come up there. And so what was happening was, so we're on this side of the mountain, OP's up here, and then on this side of the mountain down here is a Taliban village. So the Taliban, every morning, they would do 2 things. One, they would lob mortars over the mountain on top of us, and then I would have to run out and grab my mortar section and lob mortars back. And then the other thing they do was send Taliban up the side, and they would start sniping our guys in the OP position, start shooting them, right? And there's like 3 or 4 different ways they could get up there, right? Trails, but there's all ended in a certain same area, and that's where they'd shoot from. And so I'd been there for a while now. Now I'm getting a little annoyed, It's like, I hate, because they always do it at 4:30 in the morning. You know why they do it at 4:30 in the morning? Well, 1, that's when the sun comes up, and 2, that's when they do have their prayer call. They're all going to go pray. So they're like, hey, guys, let's go to church and pray, and hey, why don't we just throw some mortars at those guys on the way, right? So it was like a morning event, right? I was way on to the mosque or whatever, right? Yeah. And then, they wake Dale up at 4:30. I want to sleep, and so I got to get out of bed. So now I'm hangry and mad.
Right.
So one day I decided, you know what? They're popping our guys up there, and I need to do something about it. So I took a patrol of my Afghans with me. We go up there, and I have them stay back, pull security. And then what I do is I go over to where I know Taliban's been coming up and taking sniper shots, right? So I know where the trails are. And so I booby trap all the trails. Right, I put tripwire under, hand grenades. I set it all up. So anybody comes through is going to get fragged. Right, they come up there, and got all set up. And then my guys didn't know where I put it. I intentionally didn't tell them because, like I said earlier, sometimes we had actually Taliban in our ranks. So I don't want to expose this information to a possible Taliban guy. Right, so then they come up and get free hand grenades if they don't get blown up by one. So we leave, we go back down to the base. I got to leave within 2 days or something like that, go home for vacation for 30 days. And so I take off. I come back, and my contemporary's still there. His name was Dave. Dave and I were always at the same camp together, right? Dave was a former Green Beret, really jolly old guy. Just a really good guy, man. Very funny, told jokes, just the life of the camp. He actually committed suicide in Southern Pines, North Carolina, one day. Just walked outside and shot himself with a 45 and got it over with.
Fuck.
Yeah, I knew he had some things going on, but I didn't know there was that much going on. But so I remember coming back, and he's already there. I said, "Hey, Dave, what's going on?" I said, you know, and normally what we do is we give each other a sit rep, an update of what happened in the last 30 days while you're gone. Okay, this is what we've been doing, blah, blah, blah. I go, so I said, how'd my booby traps work out? And he was really cavalier about it. He said, oh, let me see, you killed a goat and a little boy. I was like, stop, what? He goes, yeah, you killed a little boy and a goat. And I said, what? Tell me more. And so apparently what happened was, I say a little boy, he was about 14, and his dad sent him up there to basically recover spent brass, unexploded UXO, anything they could salvage, right, for make money. It's, you know, brass, stuff like that, right? So Pops knew that, you know, there's stuff laying up there, and he sent little Johnny up to go collect it all and bring it back. Well, little Johnny went up there after the goat walked through one of my booby traps. He walked through one of them and killed him, right?
Oh, okay.
And now the weird part is, and I've never gotten the answer on this, but so Dave told me they found the boy's body down in the dump. And I said, that makes no sense, because Muslims, they have basically they're required to bury their dead within 24 hours, right? So why would they put them in the dump? Something's not adding up. It didn't make any sense. So he goes, well, then the father says, well, one out. She goes, so I got another one. He's 10 years old. You get your ass up there. So he sends the 10-year-old up there, right? He walks through a booby trap, takes a leg off.
Oh my God.
Right? So I said, so I got killed one, wounded one, and a goat. He goes, yeah. And I had to do some soul searching. I was like, is that something I want to keep doing? Do I want to leave those booby traps up there? Because the intent was to kill the bad guys and protect the good guys, right? Because I got soldiers up there that are fathers, husbands, brothers. They're soldiers, they're loyal. They go to combat, they go to fight with me. I need to protect them, right? So that's what I was trying to do. And so, but this was what happens. And so after doing a little bit of soul searching, I thought about it. I was like, you know what? Those guys just gonna have to do a better job of protect themselves or hide behind a sandbag. I said, that's it, man. I said, I'm going to go back up there and disassemble everything. So I took the patrol back with me. But this time when I got up there, in that 30 days that I was gone, there was a 115 or 155 artillery strike on that hilltop, because somebody called it in because the Taliban was up there, right? So when I got up there, I didn't recognize anything. All the trees were split in half and branches, it was a big mess. I'm like, holy shit. But I knew the booby traps were probably still hanging in there, right? So look, it'd be very irresponsible for me to leave those things there. Just fucking leave them there. Somebody's going to get killed one day, right? And so I can't do that. Responsibly, I can't do that, right? I got to recover the shit or make an attempt. So I go out there, and sure enough, man, some of them were just hanging by a thread. I'm like, oh my God, man, it's like shit. I get a strong breeze, I might get vaporized here. So I sneak up to these things and see the pins are already out. So what's holding them together actually was the spoon on the hand grenade, and I put it back into. They come in these cans, right? And you slide the hand grenade in the can. So the hand grenade was armed, but inside the can, it had tripwire on it that was tied off to another hand grenade over here, or to a tree, or whatever, a stationary point. And when you walk through the wire, you pull the grenade out. It flips the spoon, and it goes off, right?
Oh my God,
well, apparently what happened, mine were all doubles, right? So if you pull the grenades out, they're gonna wrap around your ankles like a bolo, and you're not gonna get them off. You're gonna die, right? You're gonna have two hand grenades hanging around your feet trying to wobble away.
Right.
So, I was able to go up and sneak up and catch a couple of them, and then I just threw them down the mountain over the side where the Taliban was, let them have it, right? So rain on them. But I did recover it. But the point I'm trying to make about all that is, those were the kind of things that I think about, you always think about that. It's like, God, man, you don't get to escape war. If you're a combatant, if you're a combat soldier, if you're out the guy that's slinging lead with the bad guys at very close ranges, you don't get to escape war without something mental going on after that, man. You're gonna carry something with you, right? And for me, it wasn't the fear of dying, it wasn't killing bad guys. It was like watching innocent people suffer. And that's the hard part, man, because you know why I can relate to that? Because I have a family, right? And when I see these people, I'm thinking my kids, my wife is like, man, I watch women screaming. Oh my God, man, I've never heard women scream like that in horror and fear and stuff as we're taking out their freaking brothers and husbands. And, it's like, and I'm mad at the men. It's like, why would you put your women in this position?
Right.
Why would you do that, man? Idiots. But they don't care. They don't care. It's some type of sickness for sure.